What's up, everybody? We are back. It's been a while. I'm glad to be back. So we got some things to talk about today, friend. So it's not too heavy. Sometimes we get into a little bit of heavy stuff.
We get a little deep sometimes.
Today is not that. It's not that. But first, before we do that, we got to check in. How are you feeling?
I am present and accounted for.
Yes.
Staying in the moment, staying in the present. But I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. Being in the moment is great. Sometimes that's all you can really ask for, because jumping ahead in the future, being behind, baby, So being present is good, friend. I'm happy here and present. I'm glad to see your face in a place. That's what the pastors be saying.
Amen. How about you, friend? How you doing?
Good. Just we here. I'm happy to be here in this moment right now. Yeah.
Always.
Operating in purpose.
Doing the things that we're supposed to do.
Not even supposed to do. Doing the things that we want to do. Because sometimes supposed to do, it don't be what I want to do.
It don't, usually. The older I get, the less it is. If I would argue.
Yeah.
We get to do this.
Yes, we get to do that. I'm grateful
to be able to show up and do the things, like you said, that we want.
We
always do what we have to.
Speaking of what we have to do.
What you thinking?
It kind of falls in line with the topic that we're going to talk about, which is seeking approval.
Yes, ma'am.
That often puts us in places and spaces where we have to do things that we don't necessarily want to, or things that just aren't innately happening for us, just because we feel like we have to rise to a standard of other things. So I want to kind of unpack where seeking approval comes from and how you navigate through that, and just, the different aspects of that type of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely see where you're coming from. There are a lot of pieces that get factored into the subconscious of what you're doing, because you, regardless of if you're aware of it or not, you're still trying to please somebody to an extent,
baby.
And it's usually not us.
It's like a death. It's like a death row.
Well, you know how I feel about that external validation, baby. No. So please, what are your questions, friend?
So I guess the first question that I have for you is where did you feeling the need to be approved of stem from? Seeking approval first, where did that come from? Who were you seeking approval from? And what led to you wanting to be accepted by that person or people?
Well, like most people and most issues, it stems from childhood because trauma. But my particular brand was, I had a mom that was very, I don't want to say OCD, but neurotic about appearance. So if you didn't, if there was a hair out of place, if the outfit didn't match, if you were wrinkled, anything, it was like World War III to her. That I'm the type of person, if I break a nail, I can handle, World War III, but I cannot handle breaking a nail. That is my World War III. Right. It stems from that same space where it was everything had to be spot on with the appearance. And so for me, I had this kind of uncanny upbringing of juxtaposing that, where it's I gotta look good, I want to look good, and also having a lot of family that was you're so pretty, but you did nothing to deserve that. That's not a life skill. That's just something you are. You need to do better. And so those things were very counterintuitive. And so I grew up, and then one of my seeking approval issues now is there used to be a term for it. I think it was girl next door, but it's the lazy try. It's oh, she looks so, but it's effortless. It's it's not a lot of makeup. It's not that's my bag, because I'm I can sit here and feel comfortable that I'm cute without feeling I'm doing too much to be cute.
Girl.
Right.
But see, what I will say is that, the pretty privilege thing kind of that kind of stems from there, where you kind of just wake up, get up and go. And everybody's oh my God, she's so gorgeous.
Maybe it's Maybelline. Maybe it's God.
No, for real. Body by God.
Okay.
So for me, I think me seeking approval, like you said, it definitely stems from my upbringing. Our parentals, they always have, those moments where they kind of, I think we as parents sometimes make the mistake, and I try not to do it with my children, of creating this image in our head of who our children are supposed to be. Amen. Instead of learning who they are. Yeah.
Y'all can rewind that one because you might need to hear it again. Like,
yeah. Like prime example. My mom called me maybe like a week or two ago, and you know, my oldest, her favorite child. She's like, I gotta tell you what. Yeah, I gotta tell you what he said, and I was like, well, what did he say? And she's like, he said, Nana, my mom told me that when you were young, when she was younger, you were mean to her. And now she's mean to me. And you're continuing the cycle and you have to fix it.
Oh, he ate her up.
He ate so much that she had to call me and apologize. So she gave her little explanation as to what it was.
All right.
She said, well, you know, when your mom was younger, I was so focused on what I wanted her to be that I never really allowed myself to understand who she was. Ooh. You know what I'm saying? And so,
congratulations, friend, because that's the moment a lot of people will never get.
But see, honestly though, I think, you know, there's a saying that said, you know, God, universe, whatever your higher power is, gives you your children for what you need. I would have never said that to my mama.
No.
I talk to my sons about everything within their, you know, level of understanding. And I never thought that he would he went to the source.
He was like,
it's not you, Mom. It's not you, Mom. I know it's not you. It's your mom that I need to talk to.
Talk about unconditional love. He was like, ooh, girl, let me go back in your history because clearly you don't know how to fix it.
7. And I just like, they are constantly astounding me. But yeah, that is where my, you know, seeking approval started. And see, mine was a little bit different. Like, my mom never really was like, she did say things like, oh, well, you know, you're pretty, so people might not like you and things like that. So I grew up with that chip on my shoulder. And then also, like, I always say this when I describe my mom, and I know she'd be like, but you know that scene in Scandal where Olivia Pope is like getting on the plane and she's wearing all white and her dad is talking to her and he was like, you gotta be twice as good. You gotta be twice as good. That scene. I really feel like that's how my mom was with me. Like, it was like I always go back to, I was like in 9th grade or 10th grade or something, and it was like parent-teacher conferences. And you know what parent-teacher conferences do. We got to talk about our grades, what's missing.
It's just a chance for your teacher to get one off that they haven't had a chance to all year.
So, obviously, I excelled academically in school. I had to test to get in school and things like that. And I had gotten a B+. Why the hell did I get a B+? Girl, read me down for filth. We sitting at that table. All my friends is walking past, and she like, you're lazy. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. Why do you have a B? You are not operating at your potential. Like, she was going in. I'm just bawling my eyes out embarrassed because I'm like, yo, like,
I'm screaming.
I'm like, Mom, people in here got F's. Like, people in here got D's.
Dude,
like,
talk about a core memory. You're like, right.
You over here talking about this B+, girl?
One of them. Like,
all the rest of them was A's.
I know.
And I'm sitting there like, and I'm really trying to plead my case, but I'm distraught. You know what I'm saying? And I was explaining this to someone today. I was like, you know, that really kind of set a tone for me and how I operate in life now. Like, I remember I was signing up Jiraiya for school, and they started talking about we're an elite program, and our kindergartners start reading paragraphs and writing essays, and I immediately like cringed up because I was like, ew, that's too much. It's too much. They're 5. You want them to write an essay. They don't even know how to spell blue yet.
I definitely have that bad with my kids, and they were talking sooner, like they were just a little bit ahead and accelerated. And then I also had my children before like everybody. Right. So young.
It was like a catch-22.
Babies having babies. So I had a lot more experience with children. So when our friends, like our circle, our group, started to have kids, it's like, I've already seen that phase. We've already done that part. And I'm very comparative. Like, oh, I mean, he was already doing this. He was already doing this. And then on other side too. So like seeing other kids and being like, he's 8 months and that baby is walking. Like, This child is 5 years old. Leave him alone. And I had to check that and realize, to your point and Jariah's point, oh, this is my mama showing up
It's
in
not
me.
you.
Like,
It's
oh,
not you.
like this is indoctrinated in who I am. I'm
Indoctrinated is the word.
conditioned to believe that, like, oh, you have to be this superior being. You have to be this elevated version of yourself. What I have realized through really just sitting in myself and being with me is real enlightenment, a heightened sense of enlightenment, if you will, is that moment where you realize the higher version of yourself, that person you're trying to reach all the time, is exactly who you are.
Girl.
Like, you're in a moment on a timeline, but
hear
all
it.
of that potential is just time that we haven't actually physically seen yet. So you're sitting right here looking like, oh my God, she's this, he's that, I haven't done that. Give yourself some time, baby. Give yourself a moment.
It definitely requires patience, and it definitely does require a level of awareness to understand that at some point, you don't necessarily always know what that point is. You're going to do what you're supposed to do, be how you're supposed to be in whatever given moment. But the person that you are, celebrate that. There was something that I seen on TikTok. It was like one of these reels, and this lady was like, I was talking to this lady once, and she said, well, when I become somebody, and he was like, no, stop. Look at me in my eyes. And he said, you're somebody now.
Today.
And she was like, oh. Because we're so caught up in being what, people have taught us, or what we see on TV or, social media to be like, oh, well, once I get to this and once I get to that. And personally, I struggle with that. I think we had a conversation about it where I was like, vulnerability moment, I always preface. Like, you remember when I was trying to buy a house, like, it was just like, I was so like tunnel vision on it that nothing else really mattered to me. So I was working crazy hours. I wasn't spending time with my kids. My relationship actually fell apart. And I just was so, but that stemmed from like my childhood. And I'm like, well, I'm going to be the first person in the family to buy a house. And I'm going to be the first person to do this. And I'm going to be the first person to do that.
And let's pause, because take a moment for breaking generational curses.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
all right.
Yes,
anyway.
Yes. But then I got to a place in space where I had achieved the things that I was supposed to do.
Talk about it. And then what?
And I was not happy.
Ooh.
I was not happy. I didn't feel fulfilled. I was empty. I was sad. I was depressed. I was so just like discontent with the whole process that I didn't even want it anymore. I was like, oh, I don't care if this house goes away. I don't care if I lose this degree that I just got. I don't care if, like this car. Like, I just literally didn't care, because it was like, I had really believed that if I did the things that I was supposed to do, I would be okay. I would be happy. I would be grounded in whatever it was that I was supposed to be, which is successful and, independent and all of these things. But these were things that were instilled in me because of my surroundings and, what was going on around me. So, that level of approval, because like when people ask me, like, what do you do, or what have you done, or who are you, and things like that, I came to the realization that it wasn't adjectives that I was describing. It wasn't like, oh, well, I'm pleasant, I'm humble, or anything like that. I was like, well, I got a degree, I bought this, I did this. It was all attached to these materialistic things.
Describing yourself in accomplishments. Woo.
But that was my level of approval that I wanted to be, because I was like, oh, if I be this, then everybody's going to respect me. On top of the fact, you add on to, outside of what I went through with my mother, with my biological father, who I don't really have that much of a relationship with. I remember one time, this was like freshly after I had gotten married, I was in therapy, and I was talking to, actually it wasn't freshly, it was like towards the end of me being married, and I had began therapy, and I was talking to my therapist, and she was like, maybe you should kind of like talk to your father to try to like fix that relationship. So I had called him, and I was like, I just really want to talk about where our relationship went wrong, which I never really had a pinpoint because we never had a relationship, right? So I asked him, and he went on this whole spiel about like, you're not an adult. You don't know anything. You think you know stuff. And I was I was like,
What?
you don't even know me, actually. Like, you would be surprised. You would actually be proud of the young lady that I am right now. I've been able to make some good decisions despite your absence.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that was another thing that I had to prove a point. Like, I didn't want to be a statistic. Oh, yo, daughter, you ain't had your daddy in your life, so you ain't gonna be, you gonna mess with the wrong man. You gonna do all those statistics, you know? And it just,
That was
seeking
part of
approval.
your seeking
It was
approval.
heavy, and it's
Ooh.
heavy. And, like, I'm just now at my tender age, getting to
chicken.
a place where I'm breaking out of the societal norms or just like conditioning and pre-approval, basically, that people put on me.
Wow. I definitely hear what you're saying, that in the vulnerable space of like not wanting to be a statistic. Like I was just saying, I had my first son when I was 19. So you already know I don't have to go any deeper into that, what that statistically looks like. And there were so many moments where the only thing I wanted to do was not to be another young black girl with a baby. Like, so I had to be that because it was my reality.
Right, but you had to do
But that
everything
plus,
against it.
so it's like young black girl with a baby, but I'm the youngest, like I'm the first one to do this. I'm in like, you know, whatever the accomplishment, you just insert it because it never mattered what it was.
Never did.
It was just to be like, I'm not good enough as this one thing to myself, so let me attach myself to something additional so I can feel complete here, because this doesn't feel good.
You said something key. You said, I'm not good enough for this one thing for myself, right?
For myself.
For myself. And that's, you know, I think that is another driving force about approval, because our sense of self-worth kind of stems around the things that have been built up as important to us.
Exactly.
And
I grew up seeing my nuclear family,
Yeah.
my 2-parent household in
You're
the
like,
suburbs
I'm
of
the black
Farmington with
sheep.
a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
Girl, what are you talking about? You got a baby at 19. Girl, what you talking about? You had another baby at 22. Girl, what are you talking about? You're not, like, all of these things that everyone would say were exemplified for me, shown like you had the blueprint to it. But
the reality.
Over time and through working through, first of all, being able to accept like, oh, you didn't like that version of yourself. It had nothing to do with anyone else. It had nothing to do with you not being good enough. You just believed that you weren't. Okay, but why? So let's do that work. Let's go into that shadow and figure out what is it about this thing that makes you not good enough. That's not what you were taught. You were taught you're supposed to wait until you're married and you're supposed to have, you know, your couple of kids and your perfect pixie lifestyle. And that's not, you didn't do it the way it was taught to you over and over and over again. And there's like an old, I don't know, fable or whatever, just a little saying where it's like I cut the end of the ham off the back because my mother did. And there's a woman that every year she would cut the end of the ham off when she was making Christmas dinner. Her daughter asked her one day, like, why do you just cut it and you throw it away? And she was just like, I've always done it that way. My mother showed me how to do it that way. And so the little girl did the same thing. And then she had a child, and her child went back and asked Grandma, why did you cut the end of the ham off? Because Mommy does it and Grandma does it and you did it. So, and the grandma's like, the pan was too small. I didn't have a big enough pan.
Wow.
I had to.
Wow.
And that is exactly how this feels. Like these particular types of trauma is going into experiences and being like, I have to do it this way because it was shown this way to me, not knowing what trauma was attached to why it was taught to you that way.
And what are the circumstances around that? Because you got a bigger pan now.
We got a bigger pan. Because when in that same vein, bringing it full circle, I was exemplified the lifestyle that most modern women want, if we're being honest. Most women want to be married with children and just have that general consensus of a lifestyle. But I have to be thankful and I have to accept where I am in the space of understanding that, yeah, I am a single mommy. Like, I do this, not like, I mean, whatever. We're not going to do that today. But even being in this space where I am in my life, where I am a single woman, let's not say single mother, I have 2 children. I don't have a husband yet.
Yeah.
God willing, one day.
Praise Send them my way.
Being in this space, I am able to take care of myself, my children, my home, and my lifestyle, and I live well, okay? I live a good life, and to be able to do that and sustain on my own is not really something that at the time she was doing it, my mother would have even been able to do. Yeah. She wouldn't have had the ability to have 3 kids and be a single woman. It would have been a totally different life. I grew up in Farmington. So even having the ability to do things while they don't look the way you think they're supposed to, understanding that you are still able to do it, is its accomplishment of its own. But you can only kind of understand that when you detach from the idea of what you think you should be doing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I've come to awareness about, like, the residuals of seeking approval kind of like brings into your life. It's so it's nasty work. I mean, to put it in simple terms, it's very much diabolical. Because, like, so while you were talking and I was listening, you were talking about, like, how you didn't approve of yourself, right? Or it was a version of yourself you didn't like. And then I was like, dang. So I was thinking about, like, so that was the familial aspect of it. But then we go out into the world, right? And I remember the first time where I was trying to be, like, in that seeking approval zone. And it typically happens around that middle school transitioning into high school area, right?
Yes.
So
Puberty.
I remember, like, so I went to Bradford Academy, and those of you that know, that was where I went to middle school, and I remember everybody being like, oh, if you're not from 7 Mile, and I was just like, because at the time I had lived in Southfield. We had moved because we was staying on 7 Mile.
Amen.
Okay.
I remember that house.
So I'm like, so they're like, you ain't from 7 Mile. They was repping some stuff that we didn't really know what we was. We didn't even know what we was talking about. Well, probably some of them did, because they was advanced little elementary or middle school kids, in my opinion. But, like, I remember doing that, and them being like, oh, you're too white. You're too proper. You're too that, right? So I was like, ooh, well, I want to fit in. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to start acting like where I'm from. You know what I'm saying?
She said acting like who I am.
Like who I am.
Ooh, the double mask. Ooh.
That's what I'm saying. It's that I said it's diabolical.
Word.
Because I had spent so much time, like, presently in this moment, I do not like to present as the ghetto black girl.
Yeah.
It truly bothers my soul. So I like to be eloquent in my speech. I like to use big words. You know what I'm saying? I like to make people think, like, oh, this girl has a noggin on her head, because I do.
Use your
and
noodle.
I don't want to be looked at like I'm stupid or ignorant or anything like that. So, you know, it was just always constantly that up and down for me, because it was like, well, you don't really fit in with your people, but you also don't fit in with the people that actually ain't your people either. So who are you going to be? So it places you in this space where you have to discover, like, okay, am I doing this for me, or am I doing it for them? Ooh. So that people-pleasing thing takes its seed and begins to root and come into fruition. Ooh. And now I'm a people pleaser. So I just go on this cycle of bullshit, trying to be who people want me to be. I tried to be a wife. The version of a man, like the version of a wife that the man wanted, not the version of the wife that I wanted to be, right?
That part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different episode.
Come on. I was trying to do that. You know what I'm saying? I got to be educated. You know, that stemmed from my mama. You know what I'm saying? I can't be like, something else that came from my mama was not being too sexy.
Ooh.
Not being too sexy. I could not. My mama put that in me as soon as she seen me came out. As naturally as a mother would do. You have a beautiful child, you're scared. Okay? Your beautiful daughter in this world, yes, you want to protect them. But sometimes that protection becomes smothering. You know what I'm saying? So, like, my mama, when, you know, like, I've always been blessed with long hair, praise God. You know what I'm saying? Long curly hair. Just, pretty privilege. I don't mean that in no type of way. I'm not trying to offend nobody, but God bless me with pretty privilege. So with that being said, like, she always tried to kind of like null that. So she would never let me get like too cute of an outfit. I couldn't really get my hair done when I was younger. Like, she always kept it in a ponytail or braids. So, but when I got older and I started like wearing makeup and heels and doing my hair, she was just really like, no. I remember her sitting down and being like, you're not ready for that attention. So, no.
See, she couldn't. My mom was similar, but she couldn't. You can't contain it. Like,
it comes out when it comes out. But see, the thing about that is when you push something down, it gotta come up.
That. So the more it was like, no, not this, the more that thing was like.
And when you become an adult and you don't have nobody to tell you what to do,
listen.
now. we got problems.
So it didn't take me to adulthood to figure that out, fortunately, because I didn't get to that point. Because we see that so many times where it's like they talk about like your hoe phase, which I'm not, but I will a little bit. So like conceptually, your concept of like a hoe phase, obviously it's been taken and run with. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of girls that are just.
I think it's like, levels. It's levels to a hoe phase for any. It's
there
subjective.
Are definitely levels, but the idea behind that phase was really just self-exploration and understanding what you like, so that you don't end up in positions when you're dating and experiencing whoever it is that you love and date.
Raise your hand if it was
where you're just accepting what they're giving you because you're just not used to that attention. So to an extent, like, I'm not saying like, sexualize your kids and like tell your daughters to turn up or nothing like that. Like turn off Sexy Red.
Like,
but when you try to make it seem like it's not something that exists, you take away their freedom to understand it for themselves. And then you kind of handicap them. So
yeah, so which is why I moved out to the state of Texas when I graduated from high school, because I just want to be free.
Amen.
And I got out there and I was like, hold on, it's a big bad world out here. I don't know if I'm ready. But you got to learn, and everything happens in the way that it's supposed to. So when you begin to understand that you were like seeking approval, one, did you view that as like a negative thing or a positive thing?
It was extremely negative. And kind of to what you were saying earlier, your point of being like, I was raised, I grew up on 7 Mile, but then I moved to the suburbs, and I was like, oh, I don't want to act like this. Like, this is ghetto. I'm not trying to be that person. I'm trying to be perceived as that person. I was the opposite. I grew up in Farmington. I grew up homeschooled in the 90s in Farmington Hills as a dark-skinned Black girl. So everything, the pretty privilege, I have this identity and I can switch over this and learn. It was the opposite. So I grew up, this is naturally my tone, believe it or not. Like, there's a lot of, what do they call it? Vocal fry. Like, there's lots of this in it and da-da-da. Like, naturally, that's just how I speak. Now, I can get in my bag and I can sound like anything, but naturally, that tone is the dialect I learned to speak. Like, that's that's how they sounded where I grew up. Like, that's what it was.
Exactly.
And so, there was also, like, a whole caveat and complex of, like, my family, my parents specifically, my mother, being very anal about when and how I could spend time with my family, like my cousins. And a lot of them grew up in the city, like no harm, no foul, no shade, no tea.
I used to do that too.
So they could come over to our house, but it wasn't no going over there to spend the night. It wasn't no like that wasn't a thing. So it took a lot longer for me to even form connections with a lot of my own blood relatives because we wasn't like we could do family events, but we wasn't shooting in the gym.
Yeah, y'all wasn't living the same life.
So once I finally like started to get a little bit, I'm talking teen years, so like 13, 14, where there's a little bit more freedom right around that time. I'm getting all the Oreo comments. I'm getting like, why do you talk like that? And all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, oh, these are people that are blood related to me. So I should sound like they sound. Something is wrong with me.
Something similar happened with,
And I started to kind of just seek out what I thought at the time cringeworthy, but like was culture, because I was like, oh, well, like this how my cousins talk, this how my da-da-da, ooh. And it was like a pinpoint, a fraction of what it is to be Black and amazing and excellent and what our actual culture and history looks like. Just a teeny tiny, like the worst, but like blown up on a microscopic level. So now this is a thing that I'm trying to emulate.
Right.
And my mom is like, what are we doing? Like, what's going on, girl? And I'm just like, you kept me away from my heritage. Like, Asulani. Like, I was really like trying to take that home. Okay, like Thomas is like, girl, just doing the most for no reason. I'm listening to Def Jam, which to this day I still do. I'm not coming off of that, but really trying to connect with my people and just doing the most and in the like wrong ways. And so I remember there was like a point where I kind of had to address the fact that it's like, girl, that isn't your natural dialect. Like, your natural tone, your natural style is not to be nah. Like, it's not giving Sexy Red. It never was.
Girl.
But you do your best.
Very disturbing.
You do your big one. You do your big one. And that moment when I was like, I had a conversation with my uncle specifically. It was actually, we had a conversation at like Thanksgiving or some dinner. And my mom is sitting at the table and she's just like, we don't know where she got this sister girl attitude from. We don't know where this neck roll, like all of that. I don't know where she picked that up. And my uncle, who was literally sitting next to me, was just like, she like ghetto shit. What's wrong with that? That's what she like. And my mom is like, and I'm watching them have this conversation, and I'm sitting there like two sides of the same coin. And something, I'll never forget the conversation because something clicked there where I was like, I don't have to be either of these things, and I can be both.
I was just about to say it, friend.
Who was I doing it for?
We're not, like, I really will be glad when we step out as people, as human beings, to understand that we are not one singular thing. We were never meant to be one singular thing. We were never meant to be, oh, you are an actress. That is it. That is all. You are a lawyer. That is it. That is all. You can sing. That is it. That is all. Because what happens is you put yourself in a box. And you start to suffocate. And you wonder why you're depressed, why you have anxiety, why you can't do the things that you want to do, why you go home and do this thing. But we've been indoctrinated to believe that we can't be who we want to be. Regardless of what that looks like, because there's so much judgment, there's so much ostracizing, you know, there's all these things that come with it, but that's because we've all been taken through this process to be just that.
Just this one thing.
Just that. And we are multifaceted people.
We are not a monolith.
There's no reason for us to sit here and condemn ourselves.
Subconsciously. Like, you're telling yourself in your own head, oh, it's not okay for me to be this thing that I 100% am.
And want to be. Like, it just comes naturally. I literally had that conversation with my therapist. You know, she was like, we were talking about me acting. And I was just like, she was like, well, why did you stop acting? And I was like, well, I became a mother.
Amen.
And I had children to take care of. And I couldn't be a mother and an actress.
Girl,
who
how?
said that?
How?
Who said that? Nobody said it but me. I constantly, you like you said, subconsciously you start to tell yourself, no, you can't do that. But that's literally that inner voice, and our inner voice starts off from our parents, and then it develops into
coaches,
our voice,
bosses,
right? And
college professors,
and then it becomes your voice,
friends,
and you're just sitting there like
husbands, like
the list goes on. It never stops. It never stops. And so we're just sitting here. So I've learned to try to deconstruct that, you know, and be like, okay, when I find myself in situations and positions where I'm doing something I don't want to do, I'm trying to understand why I'm doing it. So, like, you know, like working.
Yeah, God, I can't keep doing this.
Having a job. It's not something that I want to do. I don't think that is my purpose in this world.
It's something we get to do.
I feel like I should be a bird. Flying, picking up words. What God will take care of the birds, He gonna take care of me.
Amen.
So I've really been trying to accept that scripture. I think it's Matthew 6 verse 24 through 26 or something like that, where the scripture is saying that God takes care of the birds and they roam around freely and live their lives. So why don't you think He's gonna do the same for you?
I mean, He is.
And so I've like,
they are
to be vulnerable. Like, I've been really struggling with like career moves right now, like to take care of my responsibilities, right? So I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want to work 40 hours a week. I don't want to have to go, get up, spend my time there, building this dream for somebody else, and then coming home having to do all the stuff that I got to do that I didn't get to do because I spent these hours with y'all to be tired and get back up and do it again. I don't fucking want to do that. Yeah. Like, it really does not sit well in my soul. But then that indoctrination comes in where it's like, you don't have a choice.
What else you gonna do?
Who's gonna take care of you?
What else were you?
Who's gonna
what
do
other
it for
options
you?
do
You got
have?
bills to pay. You got children to take care of. You can't be out here frolicking. You can't be out here acting. You can't be out here doing poetry, having a podcast. Why would you? Does that pay your bills?
But then, like, that's the game. Like, that's the reason.
And I want to get
then you never do.
I'm not playing the game.
You never do.
And that's why I'm glad
you
we do
work
this.
the 40 hours. You retire at 68 years old. If you're lucky, you have some sort of benefits, if you're lucky. And then, you know, you use your one good hip and the next 10 summers to travel the world and try to see what you can before time's up. And you spend most of that in traffic. But
I'm not interested.
Otherwise, You go out and you do shit, and you continue to do things, and you continue to be embarrassed and fail and learn and grow and get better and shift and be dynamic in that space, or you're scared and you just sit there and you're like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. And so it's like when people say things like that, like, what do you mean you have a podcast? Like, no, what do you do for work? That's my job. This right here, like, this is what I do. This is what I do, because doing this today and doing this consistently and with the intention of being purposeful, that's going to lead me to 10 years later where you are watching me on TV trying to figure out, oh, wow, her little podcast. Yeah, no, it was never little. Your vision was.
Because your gifts will make room for you. Also, what you said, your vision was little. I'm so glad and happy that I've stepped into the place where I now attract things and I don't chase things.
Ooh, babe.
Because that chase, exhaustion.
Yes.
Exhaustion. Now, the people that are supposed to be here, when things are supposed to happen as they should, when you get into the ebb and flow of the universe, the reality,
it's
and start to
astonishing.
Things just happen. And I'm so grateful that I have that tenacity to step out and be like, whatever happens, it's going to happen. But at the end of the day, everything is going to be all right.
It's going to work out for my favor. God's favorite. I've said it once. We keep saying it, friend.
You
like,
know
God's favorite.
Friend. God confirm us every chance he gets.
He just, like, we'll just be out somewhere and someone will be like, can we minister to you? Like, y'all have a spirit. We just want you to know that God is good. Like, this is not a joke. This is actually happening. We will literally be on multiple occasions.
And we will be sitting there like, God, it's looking bleak.
We're not feeling it today, babe.
God, you're going to have to show us something, because right now we're going to do something strange.
It's not given.
And that's not what you put us out here to do. So if you want us to continue to do the work that you want us to do, you're going to have to
just turn my head. Just boop. That's where I'm supposed to be. Cool. That's exactly where I am with it. And that's what he do. God
be like, all right, you talk to me, you ask, you shall receive.
Ask and you shall receive.
And he gives it to us. And it's a blessing to be in tune with God, in tune with
Source,
each other.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
because
it takes, and it's so easy, y'all.
When you just...
That's the crazy part. They try to make you believe that it's not. But the reason that it's not easy, quote unquote, is because that's a part of that indoctrination.
Yeah.
You're contending with the indoctrination. So that makes you feel like this is so hard. Everything's going to fall apart. Guess what? Yes, everything is going to fall apart. It's going to go in shambles.
But you kind of need it to. Like, if you're not happy with where you are right now, but you're scared to let go and see what happens because it's going to fall apart, how else is supposed to fall together? Like, I know that's like cliche or whatever, but seriously, how can you expect to bring anything better into your life if you haven't made room? You're sitting in this cluttered room and you have nothing. There's no space. There's not even air anymore. And you're still like, well, when is the blessing coming? Like, well, when does it get better? You don't got room for better, babe. You got to get rid of all that bullshit today.
You ain't even got to get rid of it.
It's starting to stink. Like,
let that shit go. Like, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, the moment that I said, fuck it, just to be honest with you, was the moment that things just opened up. I was like, you know what? I remember just being like, on my living room floor, distraught. Felt like I was dying. Why is my life like this? Lord, I did everything I was supposed to do. And I was just like, you know what? I did do everything I was supposed to do. I did. So whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. And I believe that what is going to happen is going to be in my favor. And everything is going to work out as it should. And I'm going to come out on top. And I strongly believe that. I strongly believe that for me. I strongly believe that for you. I strongly believe that for the people that I interact with. And I strongly believe that for this podcast.
That part.
Despite what come on now. Despite the things that are going on in life. Because life be hitting you with them one motherfucking two.
Like, why are you using your elbows in this fight? This is crazy. You coming at me from the side. Like, whoa.
In the kidney.
It's a bit much.
Can't breathe. I'm on my last leg. Come on now, guy. I don't got it. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, in one of the episodes, I'm on the ring. I'm fighting for my life. They're massaging my shoulders. Like, because it be like that. But guess what? That's just you coming out of the bullshit and getting into the what?
The work, baby.
Getting into the work.
Blessings.
And getting into the blessings. From the bullshit to the blessings.
From the bullshit to the blessings.
You heard it here first.
Baby.
Because it gotta be. Like, come on, man. Like, life be life. It be hard. And it be... I'm reading this book, and I'm terrible right now at books because I got too much going on up
You
here.
ain't gotta tell me,
But it's a
friend.
book, and it's talking about your vision, because you was talking about vision, and it says that, you know, your vision is a vision if it's hard. If everything is coming against it, because shit that come easy, it's the same. If you get it easy, you can easily just like down about it. But if you gotta go through the mud to get it, oh yeah. Because guess what? People try to stop greatness
Every time.
every time. Every time. That's why.
It was there.
I'm gonna go too far. I'm gonna go way too far
No, but
for
truly.
this episode.
You was on it though. You was spot on. I felt
That's
you. See, I was just sitting here like,
That's
talk
exactly
to
right.
her.
So we like that. Seeking approval is one of those tools used to get you stuck.
To get you stuck.
To not get you to jump into the water of your dreams, your hopes, and your aspirations. Because I don't doubt that everybody has dreams and hopes and aspirations for what they want to see in their lives. I think what the problem is we come up against things like fear. We come up things about like seeking approval, doubt, all of the things that we talked about. And it stops you and it hinders you and it halts you in your steps, because it's like there's that little tiny voice that's trying to get you to believe it, that it's not going to fucking happen. And that's just not true. You got to be strong enough, courageous enough, and powerful enough to be like, fuck that.
Yeah.
Every time. Because it's always going to be there. It's always going to be there. Because whatever that is, I don't even know what to call it, but whatever that is, that's always like, you can't do that.
Ego.
You're never good enough. You're not this. You're not that.
It's called your ego.
Fuck your ego.
Today.
And that's what you got to know. Because at the end of the day, it just don't work. So, with all that being said, friend, because we just got into our bag for real.
As we do.
How would you suggest that anyone that's dealing with like seeking approval, how would you suggest that they kind of like get up out of that and start to turn it around and get into some spaces where they're no longer doing it and like using it towards, I guess, could you use self-approval or seeking approval to your advantage?
I think the only time it's necessary to seek approval is when you're seeking the approval of yourself. So first and foremost, you need to understand where and why did you start seeking out some external source of approval. And again, like usually it is in childhood, but what parts of that indoctrination did you carry with you into adulthood? Because at some point it becomes your shit. It's not mommy and daddy's fault anymore. It's not their responsibility. What is it? It's like time doesn't heal all wounds. Sometimes you have to be an antibiotic in the situation.
Come on now.
At some point.
Osmosis Jones, that motherfucker.
At some point. Oh, I just almost watched that. Girl, I had COVID like 3 weeks ago. I was like, I gotta watch Osmosis Jones. But what part of that did you carry into your adulthood? Because at that point, it's your internalization. So do that shadow work, lean in and figure out what parts about this do you believe, because you do believe it, and what don't you like about it. And if it's something that is just a fact, like me having a baby at 19, you need to understand, well, you need to ask yourself, how do I come to terms with what I am, and how do I come to terms with what I am? Because if you can't accept what you are naturally, the reality is the reality.
True.
If you've been divorced, if you've lost a house, if you've lost a job, if you've had a baby, if you've lost a baby, if you've lost a husband, whatever it is, you went through that for a reason.
Yeah.
There's a circumstance that happened, and part of being self-accepting is being able to sit with whatever that blemish or imperfection is and hold it closely. And then also forgiving yourself for the version of yourself you are when you're experiencing it. Because we do some nasty things in those times.
Girl, we not gonna talk
and
about
a lot of
it.
the times it's the shame that won't let you let it go. The shame attached to like, oh, I had this baby this young. I was supposed to be doing this. I was supposed to be married first. That shame is holding me back from being like, okay, but I still can have a fulfilling life. I still can find love. I still, can go out here and have the best life that I deserve. But coming to terms with those shames is the most important thing, and then coming to terms with whatever that blemish is for why you feel like you're not good enough.
So I want to break it down because I be active listening.
Amen.
So what I heard you say was when you're trying to step outside of seeking approval, one of the steps that you should take is self-acceptance.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And also a byproduct of self-acceptance is letting go of some shame and guilt that you felt.
Come on, baby. You got it. Nail hammer.
Listening. So Yeah, those are good things. I agree 100% with you, especially with the self-acceptance. I think that the opposite of that people pleasing, that seeking approval, is you being firm and confident in who you are, regardless of what people think of you. Regardless of what people think of you, because at the end of the day, it's just a thought.
It's just
Their thought can't control you.
literally can't.
It can't.
But
you
yours
let
can.
It, right? Yeah, you let it with your own thoughts. But like somebody else's thought can't control you. Your thoughts control you. So if you don't like it, change it. But if somebody else don't like it and you do like it, you might want to keep that.
And real quick, just to that specific point, a lot of times those thoughts that you're like, oh, they probably think this of me, those are projections of your own mind. How crazy is that? Where it's like you'll walk into a room and be like, everybody's quiet. Oh, they probably were just talking about me in here. Like, these people are living their own lives.
Nasty
You're
work.
doing it to yourself. Like, a lot of the times it's
Nasty work.
you
Nasty
doing
work.
it and being like, this person feels this way. These people will think this thing. And no, baby, you think that. So you have to deal with that. Please continue. I'm just saying. I wanted to point that out because a lot of times we think it's everybody else that's holding us back.
You had said about you had talked about that when one of our episodes. I don't know which episode it was, but you were talking about learning how to rollerblade.
Oh,
And you
girl,
had said you had
yes.
a film or something. You was like, everybody's looking at
They're
me.
all
And they
nobody's
was all
watching.
just-
Nobody just roll,
Like,
bounce.
it
Like
really
no one
be-
cares.
It really be you just in your head, like, oh, fuck.
Exactly.
But the
Nasty
reality
work.
of it is that you said nasty things happen when you. So yeah, uproot yourself from that stuff and actually give yourself some grace, please. We are our own worst critics. It is a fact. It is the truth. We be looking at ourselves in the mirror like, you're not good enough. You're never gonna be this because you didn't do X, Y, and Z. Because you beating ourselves up to a pulp. Stop beating up on yourself and start loving yourself. Hey, beautiful. What's up, girl? You might not feel like making it out today, but you still got up.
You did.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just little stuff. Start appreciating the things that you do. Because sometimes we just don't have it. And that's fucking
That is okay. It is okay.
It is okay. We're not meant to be perfect, astute, great, everything, all these positive things at one time. Like you said, duality. We're not one-dimensional. We have to be able to accept all of the beautiful, ugly,
Creative,
perfect,
complicated,
inconsistent, like all of those things about us, our quirkiness, the things that we do like, the things that we don't like. That is who we are. We're gonna spend. I was talking to you about this the other day, and I was on my TikTok talking about it. We're the only person that you're gonna spend all of your time with for the rest of your life ever. It's gonna be you. You. Not another person. Yes, a relationship with God. I will put that in there too. But like, even if we're spending all of our days together for the rest of this moment,
we're still spending more time with ourselves.
we'll still, because you was
there too. Okay.
come on now. Like,
You
you
were
literally
there
can't
too.
spend all your time. So it's best to learn how to love yourself as you are. And stop trying
Yes, you are.
to nitpick who you are and be like, oh, well, they might not like me because I'm too loud, or they might not like me because I laugh like a retard or something. I don't know. But, like, you know, like, stop picking yourself apart and just really think about, like, do you like you? Do you love you? Do you enjoy those things
That
about
part.
yourself? Because at the end of the day, it's all that really matters. As long as you're not bringing any harm to anybody by who you are. And I mean harm like physical harm. Like, you're not walking around punching people in the face or something like that.
Or verbal harm. Like, don't be an asshole.
That too. Like, don't be like, bitch, you stupid. Like, don't do that. Like, long as you being you doesn't bring harm to somebody, be you. Because if you don't, you're going to bring harm to yourself.
Yeah. The way that you combat seeking approval is self-acceptance.
And
SAS.
that's the
Simple. Seeking approval.
self-acceptance. You heard it here live on the Queen's Arsenal. Well, not live, but you're watching and you hear this right now. So you need to just understand that while seeking approval has been something that we all contend with, you don't have to. You can be who you want to be, how you want to be, exactly as you want to be it. And guess what? The world is still going to go around. Everybody's still going to live their lives. Everybody's going to be great. They might not like you, but guess what? They wasn't meant for you.
Amen.
And that's just what it is.
And if they won't like you, they probably already didn't. So,
Ooh.
wasn't supposed to be around you anyway. You're welcome. Do
Your
yourself a
people will be
favor.
your people. What you say, your folks?
Your folks is your folks.
The folks that are with you when you're who you are your folks.
Your folks.
Your folks that are with you when you're imitating who they want you to be, probably not your folks.
Amen.
Probably only going to be around as long as you hold up that facade.
Woo.
So, yeah.
Wow, friend. It feels so good to be back.
It does! Oh, the world is great again. Love it here.
Dang. You have anything you want to leave the people with?
No, I think we got into a lot. That was juicy.
I hope y'all full.
Oh, y'all got some meat and potatoes.
We was cooking,
like
baby.
my granny said, get the meat and potatoes. Y'all got the meat and potatoes out that conversation.
I know that's right.
Wasn't no corn in there.
Lord.
Well, you guys know how we like to end it off. Ambition audit.
Yes, ma'am.
So, for seeking approval, the ambition audit is that you write out all the things about yourself.
Ooh.
Everything.
All your adjectives.
The great things, the bad things, the things you don't like, the things you do like, the things you thrive in. Write that out. Come up with a list. I'm going to say 10 to 20 things about yourself.
Yep.
And I mean, really think about it. Not what you like do for other people.
I love Fortnite.
Yeah, but like literally like, oh, well,
I'm kind.
when I'm in the shower, I be singing.
I
Or
do a little dance when I get a shake.
when somebody make me mad, I squinch my nose up.
Yes.
You know? Like those, just like the little intricacies. Write that out. Put it on a mirror, put it on a poster. Look at that. And you say those things about yourself. I am this. I am that. I am that. And when you finish doing all of that, end it with I love you.
Oh.
I love you. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I love you. And I accept you for who you are. No matter how uncomfortable it gets or how beautiful it is, whoever you are at any given moment, I love you. That's the ambition audit.
I love it. And then watch The Truman Show with Jim Carrey.
Homework. Do the work. Do the work. Don't be playing. Because if you watching, you unconsciously signed a contract to do the work. I'm just saying.
We talked about it. Go back and watch the other episodes. If you're new here, as always, you can find us on Instagram.
Yep.
Queen's Arsenal Podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Queen's Arsenal Podcast. You can find us individually. I am the Mercurial Millennial on Instagram and TikTok. And
I am me_and_Mariah on Instagram and Raya Atale on TikTok. You can find it. As always, y'all have a good day. Excellent. Make sure y'all step into y'all purpose. And we love y'all.